Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome and thank you for joining us on this fresh new Monday, 30th of January 2023. Welcome back from the weekend. I can tell that the weekend was quite a celebratory one because PLE results are still coming in, at least from different family members, different friends, different Ugandans. I'm seeing social media. Clearly the performance was high and way better than previously. And I know right now, if you sent in your success card, you have all the rights to be saying congratulations to your candidates respectively. Well, it's a new week here on Good Morning Uganda, coming to you live on UBC TV, and of course we are here to fill you in with a whole lot of information. What happened over the weekend, what are we anticipating for as this week goes by. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am joined by Robert, Mollen, and Felix. Robert, good morning. How are you? We missed you for a while last week, but you're glad you're joining us this morning?
Well, I was in Kakumiro, of course, enjoying Majegere's organization there down on the ground, and you people was very impressed what I found in Kakumiro and how their woman member of parliament, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, is so a darling to the people in the community there. I've moved around, but I've not seen people who have a member of parliament down to earth, well involved, supporting her to the latter, and you just see every place you would go to. You know, this is a prime minister, but one thing I liked about her, she's so down to earth and mixes with the people, and actually has so much on ground that I didn't even know. You would find that every person will tell you, Yariko one, 2 weeks back, 3 weeks, and you're like, but when does she do her work? She's so much in her constituency, and she's brought so much development in that area, and I'm like, oh, yes, His Excellency made the right choice. Otherwise, it was all rosy there. People were jubilating, celebrating, and of course, listening to some of the achievements that have been made in the 37 years was something that I loved so much. But above all, while in Kakumiro, there's one thing I noticed, that Ugandans are so much into agriculture, but the challenge of value addition. Because every home you would pass, their compound, you would see maize being put on some either papayas or something.
Tarpaulins,
yeah, a lot of maize. But then the challenge was, these people are selling that maize in that form. No value addition. Now, recently, because of the bumper harvest, the maize prices have gone down. So I was like, well, people work, but the issue of value addition is something we should address if we are to fight rural poverty. That is something I found out that we must really do. The people are hardworking, but then they have to sell what they get in that form, no value added. Therefore, they still get whenever there's so much in plenty, because these are perishables. They end up selling at a very low cost just to ensure that they get whoever gives them money to save the situation. So that is one of the things I found very painful. And also the fact that many of these depend on rainfall-fed agriculture. You'd hear them, they'll tell you, you know, they are so much scared of the sun because they don't have any form of irrigation. So to them, it is a very big problem. And these are some things I feel that if people in the desert can plant and grow, what about people in Uganda here, where most of these plots have rivers, have ponds, have some water supply, not very far from them?
Evidently, there are certain twists and turns we need to incorporate in our agriculture system. I mean, if you even hear His Excellency talk about it, he acknowledges the fact that we need to get into advanced agriculture if it's actually our backbone as a country. Well, Mollen, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for that. It has been quite a weekend. I want to say good morning, Uganda, and thank you so much for joining us for yet another week. Now, I find this week really interesting. There is still a lot of happiness over the PLE results, but also sadness. And I've realized parents really get obsessed about first division, that for the pupils that didn't get it to first division, you find it's all sadness. I mean, you can't expect everyone to perform to your expectation. As a parent, you did your part. And if a child has not really gotten those 4 points that you needed, or even the 5, I think they should be cut some slack. And I think parents are just going on and on. It's an obsession, and I'm not happy with it. I think it's okay to encourage the pupils at this point to perform better in their next level, other than condemning them for what has already happened. I mean, we also look at the fact that it has been quite a change, you know, getting from COVID and now all the, you know, mishaps about the education system after that. I can tell you most people's actually performed for sure. So I think we also need to tone it down as the people who are getting into, you know, raising these kids. But also another act that I've seen that still is battling my mind, or probably any other Ugandan who could be concerned, is this whole propaganda on homosexuality in schools. And I don't know what is going to be the best course of action to make sure that we take out this. It's becoming an increasing trend. And just recently I was reading a story where they said there is an organization that is hidden in form of a human rights organization, and they are funding homosexuals in this country, a certain group of homosexuals in this country that again are the ones extending the behavior towards, you know, a group of youth. So they call you as if, you know, they want to employ you, or they are getting you to get into a certain program or project, but in actual sense they are spreading a message of homosexuality. And I think most of these are now starting to come out as people are getting vigilant. So I think it's going to take people who have seen such acts or have seen such organizations to come out and be the whistleblowers. Maybe we can get it from that level, but still that is something, behavior that I condemn, and I think that we should be coming out to actually criticize it. And if you see anyone involved in that, or especially those big organizations, please come out and tell Ugandans about it. And these days it's easy to even put it on social media. It will catch up easily and everyone can now be aware.
Name and shame, basically. We should go in for that. Oh well, Felix, good morning, welcome back from the weekend.
Good morning, Philip.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm great.
How's your weekend?
Good.
Did you go to church?
I did. I'm well rested, ready for the week.
Oh, lovely. I wonder if any of our colleagues took time off to go to church. I didn't ask Mollen here. Did you go to church, Mollen?
Well, I was unable to actually be in church this particular Sunday, but I called Mass on TV. I did catch Mass on TV.
Bob, did you manage to go to church?
I was part of the service.
By that, is it a yes or no?
I had a role to play in that service. So
you were in church.
Yes.
Lovely. Clearly upholding to the virtues of living in the world by some of the stories that Mollen said earlier about homosexuality. And that's the reason why I bother to tell all parents, as I told you earlier and I'll say again, one of the best ways to fight all these vices and immoralities you're facing lately in the world is to stick to the church, stick to the Lord, because there's this whole saying, quite baffling as well. A poor, rugged man will give birth to a nice, organized child. A pastor, apostle, prophet will give birth to a very cantankerous child. And like all these, sometimes you never know which way things go. But at least you need to play your part as a parent. Keep your children in church. Keep your kids in the mosques, for that matter. Because that's where the right message is. At least things may go wrong, but the foundation, definitely kids will always stand back to the foundation. And probably this also works direct into the performance of kids. Over the weekend, that was on Friday rather, when we had the release of the PLE results. Someone, again, has talked about how you should let kids be and what they get. And I'm thinking, how does that even work?
What do you mean?
You mean you haven't seen parents who are unsatisfied with even a kid getting 13 points?
I am
and to them they're like, no, you could have gotten 4.
I am that kind of parent.
Too much pressure.
And I'll tell you why. At the level of P7, you have no right to do what you want. Like, you're supposed to be pushed and supported to bring the best out of yourself. At that point, like, you're supposed to have, there's no option, like, you're supposed to pass. What problem do you have as a P7?
Shouldn't that pushing be done before? We're talking about the aftermath
of
now.
Course, of course,
because the results are
it all
out.
works
There's nothing
together.
you can do.
No, you must tell the kids the truth. If they performed bad, stop making it look like, but no.
But Tia Felix, I feel like you are under an assumption that all of the children probably who were not able to pass in first grade were not exactly serious. I don't think we can say that, because
I think it
know
depends
there
on the
is a bunch of
circumstances.
children. I have seen children who have actually done quite a lot to ensure that they come through with the best first grades. And tell you what, this child is going to come up with probably 13 aggregates, even when you as a parent, you bear witness to this child working hard.
First grade.
So what do you do for a child like that?
Well, it is painful, but
may say, put your results on table. I put mine on table. Begin your analysis. Because sometimes you're blaming this child, but the problem is genetical.
No, the times are different.
You had to go
No,
there.
times are different. No, you see, why am I saying this? I have a friend of mine. I was in the village, and you know, this child sits their exams when they're only them and maybe their parents. When time for results comes back, hey, my the entire community wants to know as if they contribute to school fees, but that is okay. Now, this person is my OB, and bad luck or fortunately, married an OG. But I remember how this guy used to perform. So he calls and says, Sente Nakus, no, we struggle so much, and this child got 8. I'm like, hey, Karumba, I won't mention that. Second, I remember you got 15. Senior, for you another problem. Now,
no, but
some of these things,
I find
no,
that
sometimes
very
parents, yes, there's pushing, but even you go to speaking a lot of, no,
Robert, let every parent, and me, this is what I say. Parents, you need to push your kids to bring the best out of them. You just can't sit there and say, he got this, nange, auntie nange, when I saw me that. No, come on. Times are different. You want better for your children. You just can't them because Jajawe Yagwa now will know to be genetic.
Basically, the work has to be put in way before.
If my Jaja didn't go to school, why am I paying
that is
school
going
fees?
to school is not genetic.
So are you trying to say that? No, because you're relating with what's in the past.
Performance, because...
No, I think parents must push their kids to bring the best out of them.
Yes.
And of course, this must be done before.
Yes,
Yeah.
before.
You just can't come at the end of the tail and you're starting to demand.
P7 second time.
Be
you
part
start
of the
asking.
process.
Yes.
Support these kids, assist them. So you are sort of like, when you do that, definitely your expectations will be high up there. But also the kids, I don't know if at P7, yeah, you need to put some effort to make your parents be happy in how they realize.
But you see, with the way the world is right now, I feel like even a P7 child, they understand the essence of them passing.
Yeah,
so
like
they
for us,
shouldn't
our
be
parents,
treated
yeah,
like...
they used to tell us,
Yes.
like, Olaba wembo na bona. Like all the time, you see how we are struggling to keep you in school. So you would do things that in mind, knowing that, no, this lady, this guy is putting... Now, you kids also, when results like this come back here, you don't know how painful the parents feel.
Very true.
Because one of the things that happens after results, now finding a school.
Yes.
That's when you know the purpose of passing.
And you see, we have like a very small period right now because the selection process is going to be happening on the 2nd and 3rd of Feb. And by all means, 20th, senior ones must be reporting 20th of February. So you can see between now and 20th, as a parent, if your child, also again, it's estimated that the cutoff points are really going to be high because of the many 4s and the 5s that we had. So for a child who probably got 8, 9, 10, it's going to be a little bit.
And yet those are among
so,
the best.
And
yes, and I mean
well.
they performed well, but I mean looking at the performance
That's why
versus
you
general
must
performance,
pass, man.
You know what
it's
is
crazy.
My major concern
schools
is
are-
when I was looking at statistics from the ministry is that 30% of the children that start PLE may not continue to the next level, are school dropout rates. Now the question is, now a person of P7, in case they're not going to continue with education, what can they do? Because statistics have proven the rate of school dropout through our education system. You have 30% tebagenda kweyongerayo. They have stopped there.
But what
can
reasons
they
are
do?
they giving?
Well, because for many factors, some parents don't have the money to continue, others maybe the girls may. There are many factors, so there are a number of factors why you have high rate of school dropout.
At primary
At
level,
primary, it
after primary
continues.
seven.
At primary, you have then at senior 4, at senior 6, you may have about 10% of those that began school completing. So that is where I was asking myself, now, even among those that are not going to continue, there is one who even got a 4. Maybe they are not going to continue, but 7 years in school, okay, plus pre-primary and all that, what can a P7 candidate do in case they don't continue?
Well, it is Good Morning Uganda, and clearly the education talk is one that we will never tire from having. Well, before we get into some of our local stories and international stories, I guess today should also be another day for celebrating, knowing that Kenya finally decided to open their markets, especially to poultry products, milk and eggs as well from Uganda. Now, this message came in from a special convoy in Kenya that brought it over to State House on Friday. So clearly, after a whole back and forth, discussion and then, I mean, disagreements between Kenya and Uganda on that front, I guess this is a news, especially to the poultry farmers. You have a reason to celebrate. We are yet to see how this is going to go down. Well, looking into some of our local stories, international stories, Robert Felix, what we have?
Well, we'll begin with the Prime Minister of Uganda, the Right Honorable Robin Anabanja, who asked parents to add value to their children by educating them to match with the current trends. Nabanja was presiding over the introduction ceremony of Haruna Kasoro, the State Minister for Microfinance, who was introduced by Dr. Aisha Biyinzika, who works with Uganda Private Sector Foundation. The ceremony took place at Dr. Biyinzika's home in Mulaje Village, Nkokonjeru, Buyikwe district, and was graced by a number of ministers and members of parliament.
Well, at least 4 opposition local council chairpersons in Katakwi district have crossed to the National Resistance Movement Party, and the defectors, who are mainly from the Forum for Democratic Change, did say that they made the decision after failing to work in isolation.
Moving on, residents in Kazo district have saluted Uganda People's Defense Forces medical team for the ongoing medical camp in Kazo district. UPDF medical doctors in Kazo are part of the medics in the Greater Ambara carrying out medical outreach in commemoration of the 42nd Teresita anniversary and Ame Week.
Residents of Namere district, village rather, in Chitezi Wachiso district are in shock after a 38-year-old cut off the head of a 5-year boy before he was also lynched. Now, the incident happened when the mother of the boy sent him to pick his school items from a nearby shop.
Well, looking at some of the international stories, the German Chancellor has ruled out sending fighter jets to Ukraine just days after committing to supplying tanks. In an interview with a German newspaper, Olaf warned against a bidding war for weapons. But Ukraine has asked allied nations to create a fighter jet coalition to bolster their capabilities. The US said it would discuss the idea of supplying jets very carefully with Kyiv on Thursday. Now, in an interview with Tagesspiegel, Mr. Scholz said his focus was on the delivery of German-made Leopard 2 tanks. On Wednesday, Germany committed to supplying 14 of its 2 tanks to Ukraine after weeks of pressure from allies. Following Germany's commitment to send the tanks, the US said it would provide Ukraine with its M1 Abrams tanks. And British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has fired Conservative Party Chairman Nadhim Zahawi after an independent investigation into his tax affairs found a serious breach of the ministerial code. The independent ethics advisor Laurie Magnus found that Zahawi had been misleading when he said that reports last July over his tax affairs were clearly smears. Zahawi did not correct the record until last week when he said he had reached a settlement with the authorities. I consider this delay in correcting an untrue public statement inconsistent with the requirement for openness, Magnus said in a letter to Sunak. And as a result, I have informed you of my decision to remove you from your position in His Majesty's government, he added.
Our councillor from Small Muslim Party has been elected mayor of Johannesburg after months of political maneuvering and legal battles for control of South Africa's business hub. Tapedero Ahmed of the Al Jamaa party was voted in by the city council to replace Mayor Mpaho Paleste, a member of South Africa's largest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance. Ahmad, 41, said he was humbled and overwhelmed at being the first Muslim to helm the country's biggest metropolis. It marks history in South Africa, he told the council after the vote. He promised to make the fight against corruption his top priority. Ahmed was elected with the support of the governing African National Congress ANC party, which holds the most seats in the council, but fell short of an outright majority at the 2021 city elections. Now in climate news, climate talks in the United Arab Emirates this year should focus on action rather than visions, former United Nations Chief Ban Ki-moon said during a visit to the oil-rich Gulf country. Many countries and many people have already presented their visions, so we may not need that anymore, he told AFP in Dubai on Saturday. The South Korean diplomat who co-chairs the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens was in the UAE this weekend to launch a partnership with Dubai Cares, a civil society organization focused on training youth on green skills. The last UN climate talks held in Egypt in November concluded with a landmark deal to create a loss and damage fund to cover the costs that developing countries face from climate-linked natural disasters and slower impacts like sea level rise. But observers were left disappointed with the little progress that has been made on reducing planet heat emissions from fossil fuels.
Well, while we are at it, also the big stories in our dailies, starting off with the new vision, 4,000 moved in major CID staff shakeup. A president wants officers to fight corruption. And the Vice President Alupo commends inter-religious unity. And also looking at more stories coming in from alternatives for over 100,000 pupils who failed what's going to be their plan. And also in the health, time to prepare for old age is now. Maybe that's something you need to look into. Get yourself the new vision this morning for that and many more stories.
Now you are on the spot of at least 340 billion gold tax roll, and the revelation comes amid comments by President Museveni that the tax collector has corrupt elements who must be checked to stop loss of revenue to the country. Now PLE results, they hit misses and what's next. But of course also take note of these bone cancer signs, and they give you those signs you're supposed to look out for. And university boss wants talk over fees. Well, still in the same papers, radios go to court over airing Premier League, and Vipers ripped Lions share of the 2.5 billion in players sale. Of course, also rights claimants, broadcasters headed for court contravention, and Vipers did reap much out of their sale this season.
Well, the Daily Monitor and the New Vision this morning, you need to grab yourself a copy of these to catch up on all those stories. But also, Robert over here is ready to spread the health gospel.
Definitely, you need to be healthy in 2023. You need to boost your immune system so that you don't fall sick often. One, treatment is very expensive, but also you need to be very healthy so that you're very productive. And here are these bottles: hallelujah ginger tea, hallelujah tamarind drink, and hallelujah banana juice. Now what these do, they are not treatment, but they boost your immune system. So regular taking of these drinks will help your body to be able to fight off a number of diseases.
Well, there you go. We are going in for the inspirational song for this Monday. You need to be up and running. The week starts today. Obviously, we need you to be in a clear mental and physical state for you to be able to go up and about your duties. When we get back, obviously, we'll be having quite some more conversations here on GMU, or Good Morning Uganda newsreel, between myself and Felix. And thereafter, you'll be having more updates coming in from Mollen concerning weather and climate, and probably give us the weather focused for later today. And the GMU agenda is also queued up much later on, plus GMU Extra. It is Good Morning Uganda. We'll be joining you shortly after this break. Good morning, Uganda. Welcome and thank you for joining us on this fresh new Monday, 30th of January 2023. Welcome back from the weekend. I can tell that the weekend was quite a, celebratory one, because PLE results are still coming in, at least from different family members, different friends, different Ugandans. I'm seeing social media. Clearly the performance was high and way better than previously. And I know right now, if you sent in your success card, you have all the rights to be saying congratulations to your candidates respectively. Well, it's a new week here on Good Morning Uganda, coming to you live on UBC TV, and of course, we are here to fill you in with a whole lot of information. What happened over the weekend, what are we anticipating for as this week goes by. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am joined by Robert, Mollen, and Felix. Robert, good morning. How are you? We missed you for a while last week, but you're glad you're joining us this morning?
Well, I was in Kakumiro, of course, enjoying Majegere's organization there down on the ground, and you people was very impressed what I found in Kakumiro and how their woman member of parliament, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, is so a darling to the people in the community there. I've moved around, but I've not seen people who have a member of parliament down to earth, well involved, supporting her to the latter, and you just see every place she would go to. You know, this is a prime minister, but one thing I liked about her, she's so down to earth and mixes with the people, and actually so much on ground that I didn't even know. You would find that every person will tell you, Yariko one, 2 weeks back, 3 weeks, and you're like, but when does she do her work? She's so much in her constituency, and she's brought so much development in that area, and I'm like, oh, yes, His Excellency made the right choice. Otherwise, it was all rosy there. People were jubilating, celebrating, and of course, listening to some of the achievements that have been made in the 37 years was something that I loved so much. But above all, while in Kakumiro, there's one thing I noticed, that Ugandans are so much into agriculture, but the challenge of value addition. Because every home you would pass, their compound, you would see maize being put on some either papayas or something.
Topalins,
Yeah, a lot of maize. But then the challenge was, these people are selling that maize in that form. No value addition. Now, recently, because of the bumper harvest, the maize prices have gone down. So I was like, well, people work, but the issue of value addition is something we should address if we are to fight rural poverty. That is something I found out that we must really do. The people are hardworking, but then they have to sell what they get in that form, no value added. Therefore, they still get whenever there's so much in plenty, because these are perishables. They end up selling at a very low cost just to ensure that they get whoever gives them money to save the situation. So that is one of the things I found very painful. And also the fact that many of these depend on rainfall-fed agriculture. You'd hear them, they'll tell you, you know, they are so much scared of the sun because they don't have any form of irrigation. So to them, it is a very big problem. And these are some things I feel that if people in the desert can plant and grow, what about people in Uganda here, where most of these plots have rivers, have ponds, have some water supply, not very far from them?
Evidently, there are certain twists and turns we need to incorporate in our agriculture system. I mean, if you even hear His Excellency talk about it, he acknowledges the fact that we need to get into advanced agriculture if it's actually our backbone as a country. Well, Mollen, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for that. It has been quite a weekend. I want to say good morning, Uganda, and thank you so much for joining us for yet another week. Now, I find this week really interesting. There is still a lot of happiness over the PLE results, but also sadness. And I've realized parents really get obsessed about first division.
Brought to you by MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transaction. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Get the most affordable 4G smartphone in Uganda from Airtel. Now heavily discounted from 250,000 shillings to 150,000 shillings only. Yes, 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones.
To activate free option instantly and 100% double data on all within Uganda for 3 months. Get 20 daily store passes. The nearest Airtel shop with Airtel, the powerful network.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that due to the ongoing threat of polio outbreaks in Uganda, it will conduct the second round of the National House-to-House Polio Immunization Campaign from Friday 4th November to Thursday 10th November 2022 in all the districts of Uganda except those currently handling Ebola outbreaks.
During the second round of the National House-to-House Polio Immunization
2022, the polio vaccine is safe, effective, and free.
This message is by the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF, WHO, and partners.
Welcome to the Good Morning Uganda newsreel this morning, coming to you live on UBC TV, where we're live to inspire. Of course, it is the 30th of January 2023, a Monday, a fresh new week right here for us at Good Morning Uganda, but also for you, our wonderful viewers. I hope you're ready to really start off the week, seeing as we are in the conclusive times of this very specific month of this year. Well, this morning, Philomena Mastiko, definitely me and Felix Nkunda, we're going to be discussing about the PLE results that did come out. These are the primary living examinations that were released on Friday by Uganda National Examination Board. Of course, I could say this time round, it was a bit up to rather positive news, seeing as there was an improvement in the number of candidates and also the performance generally, but also looking at the quality of performance. This is in terms of the distinctions, D1s and D2s that were registered as, of course, Uganda National Examination Board, UNEB, was actually releasing all these. We saw districts performing quite well. We did even see a number of schools get way more than 54s. I mean, I didn't ever think we'd get to a point where I would see this back in the day. If I was going to compare my times, the number of 4s in the country, you could actually count them. Right now, I think that's a different story altogether. Well, be part of this conversation and tell us what you think about the general performance of the PLE 2022 results that did come out on Friday. Get onto our socials, hashtag UBCGMU. Make use of our WhatsApp platform as well. Let us know how you took these results. 0709 602 592. Now, according to statistics coming in from UNEB, they did indicate that a total of 832,654 candidates from 14,691 examination centers registered for 2022 PLE cycle, compared to 749,761 in 2020. Now, while we are making comparisons to 2020, of course, in the middle there we did have COVID-19, which was such a big distraction in the whole examination process. And of course, this being 2022, we saw the first set of PLE exams being sat ever since 2020. But also in the process of these results, we did have again distractions from Ebola. We did have, but candidates were able to sit, and a few issues and cases of malpractice like any other time were registered. But it wasn't all rosy, Felix. We also did have a number of students that failed. Actually, these students were deemed not to be able to join the secondary level of education. And again, this is a number that we are worried about, because what happens? What's the plan for these people? But we also registered a number of school dropouts, and most of it was contributed to COVID-19. So again, we're looking at that as being a main issue, which we'll be discussing this morning between myself and Felix. And I guess this should be even our point of starting. COVID-19, Felix, in your opinion, do you think this had such a huge and major impact on our P7 candidates that start 2022?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And facts be told, because these guys who have just sat PLE or who have gotten their results should have been probably now in S2 or something.
Yes.
S1 or S2, one of those classes.
Yes.
You can imagine that's already psychologically for them downplaying, one. But two, we don't tire to thank God that at least we have had this lot also come off. Never, they say it's never too late. Because imagine a situation if at this point we are not able to have our kids sit the exam. So we do thank God. And of course the government and later on the private institutions who have put in so much. Times like this are times when we celebrate in two directions. One, we celebrate in terms of nationally, that the country has been able to organize this kind of setup and test, because this is a moment of testing nationally That's why, because this is a national, one would say a national exam that is done by various people from different backgrounds, taught by different teachers in a different environment, but they come together at a national level to sit a national exam. And that's why it's important for us to discuss the results of this kind of exercise. One, an exam, the purpose of an exam is to evaluate, because national exams are normally, or these level exams are normally set basing on what you have learned from about the 7 years,
yes,
in the case of PLE. So this evaluation is what we use to understand the status of education nationally at that level. When people talk about fours or first grade, for us it informs us, people in academics, it informs us something. When you talk about the number of second grades probably being more or less than the first grade, it does inform you in a particular direction. The number of failures, it informs you. Later on, of course, when you talk about the people who are not able to proceed with this process of education,
yes,
it also causes us to think of, or to open our minds to a particular direction of understanding this particular level. Now, COVID-19 came in and so many things were put on hold, and among the many was education, not only at that level. However, there was a seeming effort to try and see that people would learn online. At some point there was a suggestion.
I like the fact that you say seeming.
No,
effort.
definitely. It was just in a trial. Secondly, I remember government also coming out with a proposal of buying radio. If you remember, there was that
yes,
time.
there was a proposal like that.
There was money put in TV stations to have classes online. By online, I mean on TV,
yes,
live. And one of the TVs, UBC here, had very many teachers coming in for different classes. And I know very many other TV stations also are doing the same. And radio stations, for that matter. On top of that, there was an opportunity for also the people with the kids at home to transfer some knowledge to them. But thereafter, you can. Now, this that we see today is an evaluation of all the things I've given you. Did the seeming online work? Did the seeming TV and radio work? Did the seeming, like, how much can kids learn when they are home with their parents? How much? Many people, many parents I know will not tell you that most of their kids were skipped from classes to P7. Most of them.
That seemed to
about
be the
40%,
trend.
yeah.
Yes.
Kids who are in P6 were forced to sit exams. People in P5 were pushed, some of them, depending on how smart the kids were. Now, when exams like this come out, how do you use the results to plan better? One of the realities of these exams, and has been the same for the past years, is that the performance is not, in as much as it's good, it's not the best we can have. And when you look at, if you want to cut it further to go into areas, you look in the central, you will find that it will be very informative for us to look at it also from that angle, regions, to understand what is this region doing that this region is not doing. That's something we must take interest in. But there's something you also mentioned. How prepared are we to make sense out of these 7 years of the learners? What can be done to put more value to these 7 years? On average, a child joins P1 at about
6 years, 7 years.
Yeah. Now, at 7 years old, basic learning starts at about 3 years for children, basic. And at that point, kids can grasp very well, unless they have any challenge. but it's about 3 years. We believe that, and we have also been told by researchers, that if we started teaching children survival skills, basic survival skills at the age of 3, or probably at 6, for 7 years, alongside our curriculum, don't you think we would have lessened the burden of these fallings that we deal with? Because statistics also show that there's a number of people who are not going to proceed to P7.
Quite a big number, actually.
So what's their fate? Because we seem to focus on performance of the ones who have passed and what, but don't you think this, because this process, this level is done and dusted, shouldn't we be talking about what next?
Actually, according to the statistics that were released by UNEB, 117,953 candidates did not qualify to join Senior 1. And these include about 97,109 ungraded. This is a Division U.
Failed.
Yeah. And we also do have, again, some candidates, about 20,844 in Division X, meaning that these ones partially sat the examination. There is a possibility that they could have registered, but they did not sit the examinations, or they started and did not finish the examination. So if there are 4 papers,
what do we do to cater for that 100 and plus? Because the ones who are able to proceed will go through the normal processes. How about these ones? And that's the question we must eagerly answer, because all the TV stations, the newspapers are talking about these people. The 4s, the 5s, the 6, 4, 5, 6. Let's have a discussion about making sense of the 7 years, so that even if a child did not proceed, God forbid, with whatever, because of failure. Yes. And as I was saying earlier, we have become boxed in by education to think that people who don't transit through the education routes are dense, are stupid, are useless. We have been lied to, I don't know by who. We're here to find out. I don't know, probably by the system.
By the system, probably. There is continuity in the system.
That people who don't pass or excel in exams are dwarfed or are doomed, for that matter. But still, think of it that way. Aren't they our obligation still? They are our obligation as a country. Because on top of their challenges academically, how do we pull the potentials? We're talking about over 100. And this is what I'm saying. I think to the Ministry of Education and the other stakeholders that engage with their children, don't you think we should be discussing enabling skills alongside education? The new curriculum partially, at a very small extent, covers for such. But we have learned consistently that aspects like sports, in schools they are termed to be co-curriculum.
Yes.
If I'm directly to interpret the word co-curriculum, means that they are taught alongside, but at a very small percentage, let me put it that way, but alongside. For example, how often do kids do co-curricular activities in a week? Probably they wait for a Friday afternoon.
You're looking at 1 day out of the 5 days.
Exactly.
Yes.
But also, just probably an hour or two, and again, passively, not as thorough training to get the best in terms of talent or knowledge from these kids. You get it?
Yes.
Like, and this sometimes in some schools it will happen because there's probably a sports day in that term. Then they'll go in the houses.
So there is specific
and
time allocated for the extra co-curriculum.
Wrong. Because these kids that got U, ungraded, is it? X,
yes,
whatever,
ungraded
UX,
and X.
You would find a very well-talented girl in terms of athletics or running. But because there's been no attention given to her, because we are all gifted differently, Philo. There's a reason why you are what you are, I am what I am, and so many other people. In as much as we need to focus on performance, how about we focus on the alternatives to life, the alternative skills of living? These 100 and so kids who are not able to proceed, you can't say there is not amongst them a very good footballer, a very good swimmer. You know, someone, a very good cook or something. Why don't we also focus on these other skills that can be achieved alongside education? What's wrong with having someone who's a good swimmer and also an excellent person in class? Isn't that possible? Do we mean to say, because, and I'll tell you the challenge we face in third world countries, and one of them is this, the dilemma is a sour sweet one. The rate of unemployment in this country should be the most reason why we focus on building other abilities around our students.
Yes.
And that's what smart parents are doing. You find them, poor women and men, all over swimming pools in Kampala, standing there, trying to teach their kids, trying to help them. They're on fields. Now you see major soccer academies are grooming left, right, center. Music schools are there. You know, home economics. Kids are starting to do bakery as early as P3. A kid can prepare a full cake and decorate it and
saw
sell
parents
it.
really get so much into these skills over COVID.
And that's the way to go. Honestly, because when you look at, like for example, just last year, if you add up all the graduation ceremonies that happened in all universities, you have probably about 200,000 people who graduated. And where are 200,000 jobs in this country? Aren't we focusing on the wrong things? Probably. Shouldn't we be having that discussion as well? There can only be one Philomena hosting Good Morning Uganda. But do you know how many people who come out of university who want to do the same job with you?
Yes.
How many TV stations are in Uganda? Even if your kid becomes a lawyer today, and this one, it's a bitter truth, I will say it to you all. Even if your child became a good lawyer today, there's not enough space for that good lawyer to practice law.
Meaning there are other fields that these kids need to venture into.
But I can tell you where this kid can excel uniquely. Nothing can beat talent. There's nothing by when someone is a good lawyer, but also maybe a good sprinter. Because you can't be cheated in that area. just put a finish line and...
Because it's their area to
you've
shine.
nurtured
Yes.
it, yes. And there's something we call alternative to livelihood. Basic alternative to livelihood. Why don't we have this discussion as well? Aren't you tired of teaching these kids the same things that are not gaining anything?
Actually, Felix, I guess, again, relatably to what you're talking about, the value of education that we are giving the children. I mean, yes, there are schools that did register quite a number of 4s and 5s, and all these distinctions.
Quite many, yeah.
But what's the value of that education versus the mode of education here in Uganda? I mean, we have seen a couple of schools, not once, not twice, parents complaining about how their children, especially at primary level, bombarded with information. You find a primary child studying from probably 4 a.m. all the way till 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Morning prep, they are busy studying. During the course of the day, it goes without saying. At night time, during night prep, they're studying Monday to Sunday. Yes, that child is going to get a 4, but what value are they picking from this? I mean, is that equitable to the employment levels we are looking at, and eventually as they progress to other levels of education? How does that even work?
Well, it has its place. I'll be honest with you, it has its place. But it has its place when it's cut out for a particular activity or work. But at the point of P7, you don't know where your child will, what they'll do. It's too early to realize their line of profession. And that's why at that point we want to be general. We would want to be general as people who are preparing the academic platforms in the country. For example, one will ask you, when someone gets 4, what are the guarantees that come with someone getting a 4 at P7?
Yes. At
that point, unless the 4 is accompanied with, and this is again the pain we face. You have a very smart child in class, very dense in terms of life skills. So how do you match that? A child is very smart for whatever, 4 points or in P7 or whatever but then the kid can hardly wash clothes, they can hardly even cook tea for themselves, they can't speak to people, they are rude, they have no emotional intelligence. How do you deal with that? Now, these are the discussions you're having. And the reason why we still have these big numbers of failures, let me say this honestly, is because we are focusing so much on one thing. Teachers come to classes to finish their syllabus. They don't have time to bring other people on board to find out what's wrong with this kid, like, because of the style of education. And secondly, the level of you see those people jumping, dancing on screen.
Celebrating.
The competitiveness has also ruined education.
Yes. It's not healthy competition.
They are competing for the wrong reasons. When you open the papers, people are just paying to be. What is someone who got 8 doing in the papers? Just filling space. But someone is there. You say, not that 8 is bad.
Yes.
But why?
Compared to the performance, the general performance.
You've doubled the... And not that 8 is bad, but I'm talking about now papers. Like, what's the intention? People just pay money to be in papers as advertisements. This competitiveness leaves out the people who don't have the ability to compete like others. If Philomena, as a private school, you have and this is the challenge of our government schools now. Private schools may have the potential to put in so much in terms of what can be gotten to pay the best teachers. How about our poor ones who are not able? So I think we need to rethink the format of education to have it most inclusive for every child. Education being a right, it should be appreciated on the same standard. There must be a solution for every child who sits PLE. The qualifying aspect should be sitting PLE. Now, the grading must come in thereafter. You talked about something here earlier about selection.
Yeah, the selection process.
It's going to be so high.
Yes.
Kakati, the ones, where are they going to go? Performance, and this I say as a teacher, performance of any learner at any level is informed by circumstances around the child. You're looking at kids in particular jurisdictions. When you go to Kabale, deep down there in the village, you can't expect the performance of that child who probably wakes up in the morning, first takes the cows where, brings water, and goes to school at about 9. Now in the evening when they come back, they have to go and pick the cows. Sometimes they have not studied for 3 weeks or a month because of school fees. They have to walk probably 7 kilometers to 10. Compare that performance with a child in Kampala who wakes up at 6. They shower that child at the age of about 10. They shower him or her. They put for him sausage. I know that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. God has blessed you. And that's the beauty of God's favor. Because favor is not fair. Even in the Bible, it was said. And don't even feel bad about what favor you carry on your life. Because that's the blessing of God unto you. Even when you go to the Bible, as I was telling you, there were people who were given, others were. There was only one David in the Bible. There was only one Solomon and the many prophets. So, compare that child to that other child. But where do we strike a balance? Because this is a right, we seem to focus on those who have passed. I've never had a discussion about the kids who have not passed. I'm yet to. So, we need to understand what's the fate of this. Because you're talking about a right. Let's have a discussion about how do we make education useful, purposeful. Philomena, you can't study for 7 years and all you can do is draw a map of Uganda. You're talking about, do they teach Nambi and Chintu in primary, I think?
I think they do.
I think Jipiri, Bongo, the first man on earth is cheat. Who told you?
We're talking about
Who
the
even told you that
recently
the first man is cheat?
PLE results that happened on Friday. And of course, we know that the selection process will be just in a couple of days, 2nd or 3rd of February, or both days, and the senior one candidates, or rather students, are supposed to be reporting to school on 20th of February. But out of the 2022 candidature, a total of 583,768, representing about 70.1% from 11,306 schools, were learners under the Universal Primary Education Program. Now, the other 248,982 are representing 29.9% of the 2022 total candidature were from non-UPE schools. So we're looking at a total of 714,702 candidates who qualified to join Senior 1. And of these, a total of 114,617 passed in Division 1. Then 355,799 in Division 2, then 146,583 in Division 3, whereas 95,109 others passed in Division 4. And of course, beyond that, clearly you are deemed to have failed according to UNEB results. But also looking at
like how you put it, you are deemed to have
yes,
failed,
according to the standards set by UNEB. But also, Felix, looking at the performance of the specific subjects, this is what my concern is. We have English, social studies, science, and mathematics. And yes, there was...
Do we have those ones? I think they have changed. Yeah, literacy, I think.
Oh, well, I think that happens during the course of this. I don't even know if literacy goes on till P7, but I know at one point there is literacy 1, literacy 2. At least I've had a young brother of mine tell me some of these subjects, and I'm confused, but I know there is something in there. But they're sitting 4 papers at primary 7 level. And English was one of the, actually it was the best performed subject, and again one of the subjects where a noticeable improvement was registered, and then mathematics came second. Now, we know that right now we're looking at having a science-oriented curriculum, and also we've seen a couple of days, or a couple of times rather, His Excellency advocating for people to, put in more attention when it comes to science subjects, because we are looking at an economy that is more focused in that line. Science and SST, the performance is, well, it's still questionable. I don't know how to feel about that. What do we have to do to make sure that...
And I want to ask you a question, Philo.
Yes.
Is there a direct relationship between language and development?
Well, I'm not really certain, but I think there is.
Indirect? There could be. Not saying, but that's what I'm asking. Is there a direct relationship?
I may not really say there is direct, but I'm sure there is some sort.
Definitely it will be there. But English being done well is a symbol of something. But is it something we should be proud of? Honestly, let's be honest. Now that we are struggling as East Africa to even bring in 2 more countries on board. And this is what I'm saying. Again, I'll say, the focus on educating people generally has since been archaic. This general oversight of looking at education has since been archaic. We are now looking at specific education that will work into the national plan, national objectives, and the vision. Does this education, the kind of education we do, work directly into those things? Are we training people to solve the problems of our country? Having looked at the performance of science is one of the examples you gave. Because what are our problems as a country? Industrialization. We need to up our game in terms of industrialization, in terms of value addition, in terms of production. Okay? Reducing the mortality rate, talking about medical health care. These are the problems. Does our education lean towards solving those problems? Now, these are the challenges we must answer. And we shouldn't be proud. Personally, I can't say I'm proud because our kids passed English. In as much as people can speak. You see, communication is funny. You know, a doctor can attend to you. If you do you think all the people who go to hospitals know English?
Of course not. And I mean, patients? Months ago, we're talking about, we actually had a conversation where, I mean, Kiswahili is also meant to be incorporated in the syllabus. So, I mean, we're looking at having a buffet of languages.
Now, that's the thing. But as I was, imagine if our kids learn this very nice English, and they also learn some home economics alongside it, and they can market the things they do. Because like previous, we used to have it's called leave. Well, that long holiday is called what?
The third term holiday?
No, that is after cadet class you used to have.
I don't even.
Vacation. Yeah.
Yes.
Like imagine in a vacation time, and an S4 and P7. If these kids no longer have vacation anymore, it's vacation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they don't no longer have that. But imagine if a kid can do some baking. This is a life skill that can support someone.
Very practical.
Soap. Soap is an everyday utensil in usage in every family. Spare for very few, but I know every family uses soap. At some point, imagine if a P7 can do some liquid soap. Yeah.
For police. You get such things. But when you say, my child is speaking too good English, and then they can't even wash their underwear, that's useless. And this, I want to say time and again, as exams come out, PLE is perfectly good. Your child has got 4. What else can they do? Yes.
With their 4? Do they have do you even know? Like, these are life skills. Because let me tell you one of the things that fails people, even where we work today, even here in institutions like UBC. One of the things I learned from the Catholic Church is something called living together. For some of you have been in seminaries and convents. So there's something called living together. Haven't you worked with people who you can't live with? Because that's also a life skill. You can lose jobs. You can move from one job. You can be the smartest but always lose a job because you don't know how to live with other people. You don't know the mannerisms of courtesy. You don't have good emotional intelligence. You fight, imagine you find a doctor punching another doctor.
I would not go in for
But these things happen.
Yes.
You find a nurse. You've seen these videos that come out, some of them at the airport. You saw one I think, at one of the hospitals. For the patient is dying. This young girl is on the phone. With her funny lips, very badly painted, I don't know with which color. And now, emotional intelligence, situational awareness. You're in this situation. How every employer wants a problem-solving employee. Now, 4 aggregates are good, but they're not good enough to give you a good life. And we're not teaching some of these things alongside. Love of your country. How do you tell me this is not a basic subject? Who's talking to these kids about Uganda?
Isn't that supposed to be part of the SST curriculum?
Unless that's the thing. Do you know what is in SST?
Right now, I don't know. I know what I said.
That's what I'm telling you. Who's the first man on GPD the Bongo? He threw a spear, then the spear came, then the gatekeeper, Bukuku nafuka Bukuku. And this is the thing. Who is talking about the Muhaburas, the Mugahingas? Who's talking about the crested crane? Who's talking about Uganda as a country? We have been talking about the liberation celebrations that did happen last week.
Yes.
Who is talking about those events? The people in attendance, if you saw who was in Robert was in Kakumiro, they only focused on the old people. But who's going to tell these things when you all are not?
I mean, how many young people can you actually summon or call and ask, and they give you the full story about the Liberation Day? Yes.
People cannot love their country if they don't have knowledge about their country. So, as we celebrate the PLE, the fours, the first grade, the second grade, unfortunately for those who won't proceed, life may look like it's the end for them right now. And that's the bitter reality. Because what can you do after failing P7? You can't proceed. You get the point. Probably you don't know English also. Probably you can't even add 2 plus 2 because of the questions of P7. Probably you don't know what's your fate. But these are over 100,000 students. What's their fate? What reason do you give me, you a village school, that you don't have a garden? Oriye Chiboga, where land is not even consumed. Why don't you have a garden? The basic things to teach a kid to plant vegetables, biringanya, dodo. Because that's the starting point. If you've failed, if a kid has failed to pass, now we are looking at 100,000 students, Philomena, who are not going to proceed with education. And all of us are folding our hands. We are focusing on the fours. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. But even these fours, we are not sure. You hear kids stabbing each other at the edge of it. They are now to finish with homosexual. Now we are also dealing with homosexuality. So I think education shouldn't be passive. In my opinion, we have a lot of education has been made to be a bit passive. Kutu Samukolo. This year we shall P7, S4, S6 university. P7, S6, S4 university. P7, S. Like it is more passive. Like it is now fashionable. Omwana we asoma. Hey, agenda ali ku university. Aso much. Aso much. Like, because it is passive.
Yes.
It is not one thing leading to the other. One thing, if your kid in P7, what did they learn? That should reflect what they are going to learn in these 4 years. And the 4 years should reflect whether they go for the 2 years or they go to a vocational or they go to... Career guidance must be instilled back in schools, Philomena. At the level of P7, kids must start to have a vision on what they should be working towards. If you want to be a doctor, in P7, what do you focus on in primary? You get the point? If you want to be a pilot, by primary, we should be having this discussion, the career guidance. Our parents also, lastly, Philomena, parents have a big role to play in education. They have a big role to play in education. Stop leaving the baggage of teaching your kids to teachers only and schools.
There you go.
Yeah. Have some input.
There you go.
Ask
Let
the questions
us know,
and,
this conversation is still going on in our socials. I'll be getting into your feedback much later on. And of course, looking at some of our papers, the Daily Nation and the Citizen, what's in there? Kenyans find ways to beat rising costs, and harsh weather disrupted global supply chains and depreciating values also over there. They're giving you a countdown in prices between September 2022 and January 2023. On Warpath, Raila alleges visit demand by Chebukati. Again, another story you should be looking at. The KCPE exams papers, again, the performance cholera is also becoming quite an issue over there. So do get yourself the Daily Nation to catch up on those stories. The Citizen, Daraport keeps close eye on Indian farm over fraud claims. We're looking at the Western labeling of Africa must stop. Again, something you need to look at. The CRDB bank's net profit rises to 353 billion Tanzanian shillings in 2022. Get yourself these papers and many more as this Monday goes by. Well, we have Mollen coming through again with more updates from weather and climate and the weather forecast. I'll be joining you later on for the GMU agenda. Good morning.
Uganda, Nyonyintono.
is this one? It goes,
Keeping up with your transaction history the old way.
1,000. Okay, I got this. I don't. Okay, maybe if I can just...
Keeping up with your transaction history with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to keep an eye on your transaction history. Unlock the power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Time now to look at the traffic updates. We're looking at some of the roads within Kampala that have a little bit of traffic for this morning. And the first one I want to spot out for you is the Mirembe Road. Now, if you really don't have any business across that road, this is one you can avoid this morning. It is all red lines, meaning that there is a little bit of traffic over there. Makai Road, that is all the way if you're coming from towards Business Center, right over from also connecting from Namirembe Road. That road has quite a lot of traffic. That is one you should avoid. But also you look at some of the roads also joining into Kampala Road, and that is looking at the roads down there from we're looking at those joining Kampala Road, still looking at Datsu Street. That is also having a little bit of traffic right there, even in dark red colors, meaning that that is quite stiff over there. Look at some of the roads that are also joining in right from City Square. There is a bit of traffic there, even on the main road, that is Kampala Road. For those leaving town, also that is quite some traffic there. But those going out of town, if you're headed towards Bombo Road, it looks like the traffic is quite clear. But also for those heading over across Jinja Road from Kampala Road, you can look at the fact that there is a little bit of traffic building up right from Access Road towards the roundabout as you connect to Wampeo Avenue. There is traffic there, and mainly as you head towards internal affairs. For those joining town using that road, there is some stiff traffic as you head towards the roundabout, but it looks like that might clear in just a short while. Away from that, we also want to take a look at the weather situation over the country, and we'll be getting into the weather forecast a bit later on, but also tapping in from what is happening internationally in the world of climate. We continue to look at a story on the floods in New Zealand, and we do know that a state of emergency was issued on Friday. That is after New Zealand got heavy floods across the northern parts of the island. And what we do know right now is that the floods ravaged the Auckland area, that is in the northern island of New Zealand, bringing with them floods and landslides across the area, and so far the death toll has risen to 4. Now, the interesting bit about it is that once the flood warning was issued, most of the people in the area started evacuating, and that is how they were able to at least limit the death toll, or even the property that was destroyed is still also not yet ascertained as to how much the damage, to the extent of the damage. But also we look at the landslides that were also triggered by these flash flooding throughout Saturday and Sunday, and this is still across the area. Even as we come into Monday, there are still warnings coming through from the meteorological agency and showing that there could be more rains across the area. And you look at the Northern Island having continued for the third day with the same situation when it comes to floods and of course a landslide. Now you look at some of the images coming in from New Zealand showing some of the cars that were actually caught up in that whole scenario of flooding. That is one of the streets across Auckland, that is from yesterday. But also what is coming through is that this area has had to deal with rains for this time of the year, but the intensity is now going beyond, and this is why they are already linking it to the variations within the climate system also for New Zealand. But also you look at the fact that even the rains that are coming in within this time of the year are more frequent, meaning that that also adds to more likelihood of it being linked to climate change. Now, we also did have rains across the country here in Uganda, and for yesterday, the news that were coming in from Bukoma and Simbi, we also saw a heavy flood with strong winds that destroyed the area, and some of the housing that were unroofed because of the strong winds that were associated with the rains across Bukoma and Simbi. Most of the property were destroyed across a few villages within the area, but also you look at the rains that are coming in within this dry season of January, most of them are actually associated with either hailstone, you look at the strong winds, you look at the flooding that could also be associated with those, as it is not a rainy season, so meaning that the rains that will be coming in will be really off-seasonal and can be associated with most of those quite extreme weather events. Now we want to take a look at what is happening over the country. For now, we'll be tapping in from our satellites, that is the UNITSAT satellites, giving us what Uganda looks like for this morning. We're starting off quite sunny across the northern parts of the country, looking at eastern Uganda as well, the Karamoja region, starting off quite sunny, while we see the open grey colors right there, that is indicating sunny skies. And same situation for northwestern part of the country, that is across West Nile, starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine, much sunshine still across midwestern Uganda, Masindi towards Hoima, the Rwenzori area, also starting off with a sunny morning across central, that is Ruero, looking at Nakasongola as well, starting off with quite a sunny morning. The same situation extending towards the eastern part of Lake Victoria, across Tororo, Jinja, Mukono, Kampala. We're starting off with a sunny morning. We do see a few clouds though that are starting to develop across the southwestern part of the country. If you see, that is indicated by the white colors right there on the map. And that is showing cloudy conditions across parts of Masaka all the way towards Mbarara, southwestern Uganda, that is Kabale, Kisoro, Fort Poto, and that is where we're likely to also have rains developing for this morning. We have a rainy system that is also starting to develop over Lake Victoria, that is indicated in the deep red and orange colors right there, that is starting to form up. Most likely that will be bringing us rains for the western part of Lake Victoria as well as the central area. That means that also parts of Kampala, Wakiso, Entebbe could be getting rains hailing from this system, but it looks like it's moving westwards, so meaning that also we could have more rains developing for southwestern Uganda, Barara, Kisoro. We're looking at areas of Kabale, we could be having rains for later in the day, but also most of that is expected for the southern part of the country as we continue with mostly dry conditions still expected for the northern area as well as the eastern part of the country. We'll be looking at our forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority for this morning, and also look at how we're faring in terms of temperatures, that is across different areas within the country. Start off with the western parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe and Rakai. We're forecasting isolated rains. Those will be coming in as the morning progresses, starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade. That system is also expected to reoccur in the afternoon. Across Mbarara, we're dealing with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions for this morning, starting off with that is at 26. Also that will be across areas of Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rubirizi. We do expect rains to come through later in the evening for that area. Mount Elgon Highlands, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine. Quite a warm morning as well. That is at 27 degrees. We're looking at areas of the eastern parts, of course, Lake Victoria Basin, Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We're forecasting rains. Those will be across several places for this morning, starting off hot at 28 degrees centigrade. We do expect that those rains will help to bring temperatures down later in the afternoon. Hopefully we don't have to cross over into the 30s for that area. Now the eastern parts of the country, Soroti, Katakuya, Muria and Kumi, forecasting also a mix of clouds and sunshine. It is also quite a hot morning for you at 29 degrees centigrade. Now that will definitely cross into the 30s, that is the lower 30s by afternoon, as we do expect to continue with mostly sunny weather for the afternoon. Eastern parts of Central Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, we do have Nakasongla in that category as well. We're starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine, quite hot as well at 29 degrees centigrade. We do expect that we might also continue with mostly sunny intervals for the afternoon, so we'll be dealing with warm weather as well. The central parts of northern Uganda, where we have Jumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel, are forecasting also mostly a sunny morning. We will have intervals of cloudy conditions as the day progresses, starting off quite hot. Take a look at the 30 right there for this morning. We will be getting more into the 30s as we head towards the afternoon. Now the central parts of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We are forecasting light showers. Those will be across several places, and that is also for mid-morning. We might be crossing over into the afternoon with most of those rains expected to reappear across several places, and most of that will also be across most areas within the islands of Lake Victoria. We're talking about Wakiso, Entebbe, Mukono, and most of the areas also across islands like Kalangala, where we're seeing most of those systems starting to develop even as we speak, and that is what we expect to bring in more rains. Now the southern sector will be performing still when it comes to wet weather activities for January and February, but then again we're still looking at stretched dry conditions across the country, especially for the northern part of the country, eastern Uganda. We do expect that as we come into February, maybe there will be more changes, especially when it comes to more wet weather activities picking up, especially for the Rwenzori area, still the western stretch. Otherwise, we're still expecting to have sunny conditions still over northern Uganda, the Karamoja region, the eastern part of the country. Now we'll be getting into the good news as we head into late February, where we do expect that we'll be beginning or offsetting the March to May first major rainy season over Uganda. But until then, we might be dealing with mostly dry conditions for most areas within the country. That is it in terms of weather updates for now. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be coming up right after this. Later we'll be getting into sports updates, after which we'll be getting into Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful Monday and a good week.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Whitewash is a liquid used for painting things, like walls and fences.
Whitewash.
Okay, the boss just told me the company is only cutting a few jobs. She said not to worry.
How is that supposed to make me feel better? Steve just got fired today.
But she said the company is fine.
Sounds like she's trying to whitewash the problem.
When you whitewash something, you cover its natural condition with whiteness. Whitewash can make surfaces look clean. But in conversation, whitewashing means to make something wrong or illegal look okay. It is a way of hiding a truth or covering up unpleasant facts. And that's English in a Minute.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that a second round of the house-to-house polio immunization campaign will take place from Friday, the 20th of January to Monday, the 30th of January 2023 in the following 4 districts that were affected by the Ebola outbreak: Kasanda, Mollen, Mukono, and Wakiso. During this house-to-house polio immunization campaign, health workers will come to your homes, workplaces, schools, daycare centers, places of worship, and other community gatherings and immunize all your children below 5 years of age. Please cooperate with the health workers and give them access to your homes to vaccinate all your children aged 5 years and below against polio. It is important to note that this house-to-house polio immunization campaign does not replace routine immunization. The effective and free.
Parents and guardians, please ensure that all your children below 5 years of age are immunized against polio during the second round of the polio immunization campaign from Friday 20th of January to Monday 30th of January 2023 in the following 4 districts: Kasanda, Muende, Mukono, and Wakiso. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF, World Health Organization, and partners.
Okay, so there's 3 seats. Okay, because this one it goes.
Keeping up with your transaction history the old way.
1,000. Okay, I got this. I got this. I don't. Okay, maybe if I can just.
Keeping up with your transaction history with the Nyonyintono app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to combine your transactions. Visit the App Store
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Five minutes past 8 a.m. here on Good Morning Uganda. You're welcome and thank you for joining us on this GMU agenda. The day is Monday and 30th of January 2023. Well, we are looking into the new week. Welcome back from the weekend. If you have just joined us, it's never too late to have a very good and informative conversation here on UBC TV. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and this morning I do have a special guest in-house here with me, and we're going to be talking about the recently released primary leaving examinations 2022 by the Uganda National Examination Board. This happened on Friday, looking at the performance, assessing the PLE performance of 2022 PLE examinations. Be part of the conversation. Get onto our Twitter, #UBCGMU, and of course you can use our WhatsApp number. Well, this morning I am joined by Mr. William Kayongo. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Now, Mr. William Kayongo is the former Principal Education Officer of Wakiso and former head teacher, Bodo Junior School, but also an education consultant, and not forgetting that he's also a lecturer at Makerere University. Well, who better than Mr. William here to have a conversation about our education here, our primary leaving examination performance, assessing it. Now, as we speak, yes, many parents are still celebrating because according to UNEB, there was quite an improved performance in the 2022 examinations. We did have the boys perform again better than the girls overall, but we also did improve when it comes to subject performance. English and mathematics came second. We did have science and SST coming after that. But also looking at the statistics as presented by Uganda National Examination Board of the 2022 candidature, a total of 583,768, representing 70.1% from 11,306 schools were learners under the Universal Primary Education, that's the UPE program, and the other 248,982, representing 29.9% of the 2022 total candidature, were from non-UPE schools. And if I may catch you up to speed, performance of the first division, second division, and third division, we had a total of 714,702 candidates that did qualify to join a Senior 1. And of these, we have a total of 114,617 that passed in Division 1. When we look at Division 2, 357,799 students passed in Division 2, and 146,583 in Division 3. Whereas 95,109 others passed in Division 4. We also did register a number of students who are not deemed enough or able enough to progress onto Senior 1, and we're looking at 117,953 candidates, and part of these, 97,109 were in Division U, or you can say they were ungraded, and 20,844 students did pick up an X, which means that they could have registered, but they were not able to sit the examinations, or they partially sat the examinations. Could be they did 2 subjects and left the other 2, or did 1 or anything, but they did not sit for all the 4 papers. But I want to congratulate, of course, the candidates that did pass with flying colors, and very excited to join Senior 1. Again, it hasn't been quite an easy one, 7 years, and we also know that we had COVID-19 somewhere in there, 2021, and the last set that we sat for, the last set that sat for PLE, that was in 2020. Well, Mr. William, this morning, maybe we could start from the good performance, or at least the improved performance compared to 2020. There was an increase in the number of students, first of all, that registered for primary leaving examinations, but also the performance was way better than 2020. I mean, in your opinion, where do you think we actually put in more effort to have these numbers grow?
Between 20, first and foremost, I want to join you in congratulating our education team. From our Honorable Minister, who is at the helm of education, Honorable Janet Kataham 7, her team, the Director of Basic Education, the head teachers, the teachers, the parents, and the candidates. All must have done a wonderful job. Coming out of COVID-19 lockdown must have been a difficult experience for everybody. We have candidates who sat for PLE and were already mothers. We have candidates who were almost, who could have been fathers. Government allowed boys and girls who should have been repeating P6 to go and sit PLE. So it was a wonderful mixture that we had in P7 last year. So I want to join the teachers. I want to join the candidates. I want to join the schools in saying congratulations. And please do celebrate your victories. They are wonderful. And because of what you all did, we are proud as Uganda. We are proud of the UPE program. We are proud to be where we are now. Now, what could have been what could have made the difference between last year's performance and this year's performance? Number one, last year, candidates were only able to be in school for almost 2 months before they sat PLE. So it's understandable that they could not have performed well. This year has been almost a full year of exercise in class. So the teachers who perhaps were resting under COVID came back full force and said, let us show what we are able to do. The candidates who also had sat home for a very long time were raring to go. They came back in school and said, we have got to show our parents that we were tired of home. But I want to believe that all the efforts that were put in fighting the COVID-19, fighting the Ebola, must all have borne fruit and added on to our victory in PLE 2022. Thank you very much.
Well, clearly there was more effort and everyone was very, very business-oriented when it came to the education and also the performance. But also breaking it down, looking at English, mathematics, we have science and SST. The highest or the most performed subject this year was English, and we did notice an improvement over there again. Then mathematics came second. But now science and SST, the performance is still a little bit, it's not up to standard as we would love for it. And I would love to know, because again, this has been happening over the years. We have seen the performance, especially in the science subjects, it's not satisfactory enough. English has always been in the lead when it comes to performance. So where do we go wrong? How do we have a balanced performance and actually maybe pull up our efforts in these science subjects, because it remains a big challenge despite the fact that we improved? But how do we get to the real maximum capacity of performance?
The main problem in our performance in science is leaving it until the end. UNEB is so good to us as teachers and pupils. UNEB will never set any question outside the syllabus. And believe me, all the boys and girls who sat PLE last year, when they came out of the examinations, all were jubilating and said, we have done it. Every question that came, we covered it in class, but then the results are not up to what they expected. Where is the problem? Let us begin with the P3 syllabus. UNEB sets exams which have come from the work we have covered right from P1.
Yes.
But what happens in most schools, when they are covering a topic in P1, in P2, in P3, in P4, they cover the topic as if they are covering it for the P3 class, for the P4 class. They are not looking at the end. So in my workshops, in my seminars, I am now telling teachers, I want you to cover this topic in P3 with the end in mind. Teachers do not teach science topics in P3, in P4, in P5, in P6 with the end in mind. They do not go round the topic. They do not take the children out of class to see the real life side of the topic they are covering in the classroom. And this is where we go wrong. If we teach, I'm sorry, I'll go into what technical work we do in the classroom. Teachers have got what are called schemes of work. And schemes of work are the laid down work that they are going to cover in a term. They have got lesson plans. But this scheme of work is the most important area where they plan for what they are going to teach. Now, if you cover your scheme of, if your scheme of work covers a topic and only covers it for P3, then a question will come on that particular topic in PLE and the child is not able to answer. Ma'am, we could look at a topic, we could look at a house fly. The house fly is covered in P3, and in most cases, teachers will cover the house fly as something we are going to fight in the home because the house fly is cause for disease. It's a source of disease. But then the house fly has got advantages. Now, what UNEB will do in PLE will say, give 2 ways in which the house fly is beneficial to the farmer. And the teacher who taught that topic only for P3 will not have covered the other side of the house fly. So teachers of science, we are seeing where we go wrong. Let us look at all sides of the topic. Let us teach this topic with the end in mind. If we teach the topic with the end in mind, then even the questions we set for pupils in P3 will be almost similar to what UNEB will be setting in PLE. So if we teach the topic and only cover the surface, these are the results we are seeing in PLE.
Okay. Now, if we are also going to go by district performance, Mr. William, usually the districts that dominate the first 5 positions, you're looking at probably Wakiso, you're looking at Mukono, you're looking at Kampala, you're looking at Masaka. So there is, I believe that actually it's quite evident, it may not even be a belief. There are certain districts that perform way better than the other districts. And this is not a one-time on-time performance. This is probably a pattern we have been seeing for the last 5 years. Every single time we are releasing PLE results, we are seeing the same districts dominating. Now, what could be the problem, and how do we manage to balance it out in all the other districts? We want to see these other districts that usually are on the end tail of the performance, the regional performance, and how do we get to balance all of that? And I mean, where does it stem from? Is it that we put our concentration on more of these districts that are already taking over the first 5 or 10 positions? How do we balance the table?
So many factors come into play. But my thinking is the first and most important factor is self-belief. Many boys and girls who are away from Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono, Masaka, enter P7 believing that they are not going to perform as well as those who are in Kampala.
Yes.
The teachers have also the self-belief of even the teachers is not up to where they should be. The same syllabus we are covering in Kampala, in Mukono, in Masaka, is the same syllabus being covered in Mityana, in Kakumiro. It's the same syllabus. So if we in Kakumiro, in Mubende, in Chiboga, we are to scheme with the end in mind, we would be able to perform as well as Kampala. Only one factor which would perhaps disadvantage Kakumiro, Mityana, Mubende against Kampala, Wakisa and Mukono, that is the level of practice that comes towards the end of PLE, towards PLE in Kampala, Mukono, Masaka. But if the teaching were to be at the level of teaching with the end in mind, we would be able to almost come to the level of Kampala. I did PLE in 1975, and that's a very long time ago. But I was number 7 in the whole of Uganda, in a school called Kitemo Primary School in Mubende. And all the best candidates came from rural districts in Uganda. Why? Teachers in those days had a self-belief. Candidates in those days had better self-belief than the candidates we have today. I have identified the issue of practice in Kampala, Mukono, and the many urban urban areas.
Yes.
That could tip the balance of performance. However, the general performance, if we all were teaching with the end in mind in the whole of Uganda, then our general performance would come up. Kampala, Mukono would only tip the balance on the issue of practice. But otherwise, we would all be better, we would all have better performance if we were covering each topic the way it should be covered, as UNEB wants us to.
Okay. Well, I am with Mr. William Kayongo here this morning, and we are talking about the PLE performance, assessing it. What were the ups and downs of this performance? Where do we need to divert our attention more? What do we need to celebrate, and why should we be celebrating all of that? And again, just to catch you up on speed, these results, the primary leaving examination results of 2022, were released by Uganda National Examination Board. Of course, they were really presented to the country by the Honorable Minister for Education, that is Mama Janet. And we did see improvements in the performance, but also an increase in the number of registered candidates for PLE 2022. Now, 2nd and 3rd of February will be the selection dates for these secondary schools. Who will they be taking? And by 20th of February 2023, we should be having our senior one students report to school. But you are an education consultant, and I mean, I would love to, the next question, I would love to hear your perspective from that angle. Seeing our students, our primary leaving examination, rather our primary 7 students, the mode of education and the studying they go through, we've seen a couple of schools where we have the children pumped up. Yes, you find a child studying during morning prep, during the course of the day, during night prep. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And a number of parents feel very uncomfortable with this type of teaching. They feel like, yes, it may be the best way to have these children bring their results, but what is the value of that for they'll get? Is that something that we should be worrying about as a parent, but also as a school? Should we be worrying about that kind of teaching a primary 7 student?
We should be really worried about that kind of teaching. The best teaching should touch the heart, should touch the head, and should touch the hands. Head, heart, and hands. If we pump up our child and concentrate on the head, we are producing somebody who, even if he were to go out of school, is not able even to wash his hand, is not able to make his bed, is not able to grow just maybe vegetables in the home, is not able to sweep his house, is not able to clean his office, is not able to clean the toilet. That kind of person is not the kind of person we want. My fellow teachers, I am encouraging and I'm urging you, let us give our boys and girls the chance to work with their hands, the chance to worship their God, the chance to be real human beings. Real human beings. I was listening one day to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates said, if you want to succeed in life, start by making your bed. But we have boys and girls in P7 who think they are not even entitled to making their own beds.
Yes, that's true.
And that's not good. We have boys and girls in secondary school, in senior, in O level, who are not able to make their beds. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the young men who will run this country when we have gone away. What kind of future do we want our country to have? So if we want people who are able to work with their hands, to work with their heads, let us start by doing it in primary school.
Okay. Well, in as much as very many students really outdid themselves and performed well, we also have the other bunch of our dear students who did not exactly pass with flying colors. In fact, thousands of pupils failed to progress to Senior 1 after being unable to attain the divisional grades at the primary leaving examinations. And in relation to the 2022 PLE results, a total of 117,953 candidates did not qualify to join a Senior 1. And these include, if I may break them down, 97,109 ungraded, that is Division U candidates, and 20,844 in Division X. Now, under the Uganda National Examination Board standards, a candidate is deemed to have passed if they have obtained divisions of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you are ungraded or Division U or X, then you don't qualify to have passed the PLE exams. Now, in other words, Division U to candidates who have failed to reach the minimum level of performance that can be awarded to at least a Division 4. Now, Mr. William, looking at this is not a small number, 117,953 candidates. These are not going to progress to Senior 1. What alternatives are there for these students? Because there could be very many reasons. Some of them, now these that we are seeing, these have failed primary leaving examinations. But there are even those candidates that actually passed, but they may not necessarily be able because probably the parents cannot afford the school tuition or, you know, very many other challenges in there that could fail them from progressing to Senior 1. What alternatives are readily available looking at our country, Uganda, for these young boys and girls?
Well, first and foremost, you and me and many other people in positions of authority need to speak to the parent and say, your child is not a failure. That's the first most important statement we want to give the parent. Your child is not a failure. By not being able to get a grade in PLE does not qualify your child to be a failure. Now, unfortunately, in many districts, there are no alternative ways of handling these young boys and girls. But near where I stay, and I stay in Budo, I have a young man who is a farmer. He grows tomatoes, and I don't know how many of you listening go to the market. But right now, a basin of tomatoes goes for 100,000.
That's a basin of tomatoes?
A basin of tomatoes. A box of tomatoes goes for 500,000 plus. Now, if one were to be growing tomatoes, would that person qualify to be a failure? Our coffee that we have in Masaka, growing Irish potatoes, all I'm saying, speak to your boy and girl and say, you are not a failure. And start thinking about alternative ways of making him productive. And production does not require a brain that scores division 1 in math. No. There are so many reasons why boys and girls fail, and we cannot cover them in this 1 hour.
Yes.
But let us speak to this young boy and girl and say, you are not a failure. Sit down as a family and say, we can do this in the next 1 year. And that next 1 year, we could look at crafts, we could look at agriculture, we could look, we do not know whether that boy and girl has got a skill, but that boy could be a skilled musician.
Yes.
That boy could be a skilled footballer. That boy could be a skilled athlete. Let us look at the alternative ways that this young man and boy, this young boy and girl could be occupied in the next 4 years.
Okay.
And that could be in alternatives to the academic work.
All right. Well, I do have some contributions that are coming in from some of our viewers. And Yasin Luboa from Buddo says a lot more inspections need to be carried out, especially in UPE schools, to achieve the best. And right now, we actually noticed quite an increase in the number of UPE students that were able to register for PLE go high, but of course more efforts need to be pushed over there. Now, thank you so much, Luboa, and also coming in from Joel Muhindo, who is watching in from Kasese. You're saying girls shouldn't be proud of passing English as if it's the only subject. They should also concentrate on the other subjects. Thank you so much, Joel. Well, keep the feedback coming in. WhatsApp number is 0709-602-592, and on Twitter, #UBCGMU. Well, we also need to talk about the malpractices. And I mean, every other time we are having examinations, whether at PLE level, whether at UCE level or USCE level, we have to talk about the vices, the malpractices, especially, and they come in different formats. You will find that probably some people try to open these examinations to access them before, they are presented before the candidates, or maybe there's some information coming in from insiders. What do we have to do to make sure we cut out all these loopholes? We block them, because we cannot be talking about malpractices every now and then. It's one of the biggest challenges we are facing every single time we know examinations are about to be presented.
It's difficult. It's difficult. I want to say it's completely difficult to eliminate all the malpractices.
Yes.
But what we can say, and what I can say, is teachers, head teachers, school owners, if we do our work well, right from P1, then we shall not panic when it comes to PLE in November. What happened is, Mom, is that teachers, pupils, school owners, parents sit back and relax in P1. We are just still in P1.
Yes, we still have 6 years ahead.
Yes. In P4, we still have 3 years ahead. And when it comes to PLE, they start panicking because PLE is round the corner. If we did our work, if we did what we were supposed to do, right from P1, and in P1, what is the emphasis? Emphasis is being able to master reading with understanding. If we master reading with understanding in P1, then we shall unlock the secrets in science, the secrets in mathematics, the secrets in social studies, because a child is able to read with understanding. Let us go on to P2 and do our work effectively. Cover every topic from all sides. Why don't we, one year, and I don't remember which year, but last year I had a workshop in Machindi Sabagabo. And I told the head teachers that when PLE comes, after PLE is done, select some questions that a child of P1 is able to do. And I can tell you, in all the 4 papers, there were at least 2 questions that a child in P1, a well-taught child in P1, could have been able to handle. So if we do our work well, right from P1, then we shall not panic when it comes to PLE. But how can we eliminate cheating? By doing our work right from when we are supposed to be doing it. But number 2, personal self-check.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you are doing it, you are panicking and thinking that I am going to succeed. But when things go wrong, I want everybody in this year's PLE, whoever will endeavor, whoever will anticipate, whoever will want to cheat, think about the other side. When you are facing your neighbor officials, when you are at the police station, being interrogated, all these are difficult moments. So we cannot completely eliminate cheating, but if we were to do what we are supposed to do right from the beginning, then we shall not panic.
Okay.
But number 2, when you think about cheating, think about the other side. When you are caught, what is going to happen is not going to be good for you, for your family, for your candidates, and for your school.
All right. As we're coming to the conclusive part of this discussion between myself and Mr. William here, the problem of dropouts, the number of children dropping out along the way before P7 is also growing high. And I would love to know from your perspective, what role can we play in this as a society, as parents, and as teachers? Because when you look at the statistics showing you the students or the pupils that start from primary 1, and when it comes to the 7 years to primary 7, the number has gone down. Of course, there are very many challenges mid there, P2, P3, P4 all the way. But how do we address, what part do we play in all of this?
There are so many reasons why children drop out. Some joined the school when they were really mature and only went to school to learn to read and write. So after they have mastered reading and writing, they go out of school. But some go out of school because they have lost their parents or one parent who was supporting them. Some go out of school because of good reasons. Some are musicians and they think that by going into music, they will be able to earn a living. Some go out of school to join agriculture. So some go out of school for positive reasons. However, I think it goes back to the head teachers, it goes back to the teachers, it goes back to the PTA, it goes back to the school management committee. I have 7 areas which make a school like Kirabo to the boys and girls. Number one, if we could have love in the school, and love covers so many things. If teachers teach with love, if teachers welcome pupils with love, then pupils will want to stay in school. Number two is motivation. What happens between the coach and the team playing football? What happens between Mourinho and his team? Teachers are some kind of coaches when it comes to the relationship between the teachers and the pupils. Number three, time management. If we were to manage our time well in school, I think we would do a lot to make the school like Kirabo to the boys and girls. Unfortunately, in many of our village schools, pupils are picked out of school to go and attend a burial in the village. Pupils are picked out of school to go and work on the road. Pupils are picked out of school for so many flimsy reasons. Number four is managing of the exercise book. If we, right from the village school, if we were to manage the pupils' exercise book, our pupils would perhaps find reason to stay in school. Number five is the girl child. We need to have a lot of emphasis on the girl child.
Yes.
And this starts with even the teaching staff. If you have all the teachers, if you have only male teachers teaching science, then the girls in school will have a belief that this science is for male pupils and not for us girls. Number six, we need to learn to teach with the end in mind. What I have been emphasizing right from the beginning.
Yes, yes.
If we do what we are supposed to do and do it with that end in mind, we would find time to make the school like Kirabo to the boys and girls. Then public relations, bringing in the parents to school, bringing in the community into school, making our school a real community that would make the school like Kirabo to the boys and girls. Perhaps dropouts would reduce in our schools.
And that is something we would love to see in just a few years from now. Well, thank you so much, Mr. William Kayongo, for stopping by and for the wise words. Hopefully we can take them on and see those numbers go low, but also for the insights in the education industry and also the education sector generally for our primary children. Well, that brings us to the end of this morning's discussion. Mr. William Kayongo here is an education consultant, and no wonder he was here to give us some of the insights he did and for us to pick a brain from him. Ruben Pima Chivirango is coming up next to give us some of the sports updates, what happened over the weekend. All of that is here for you on Good Morning Uganda, and we do have the GMU Extra queued up right after that. I want to wish you a wonderful and productive week ahead. I am Philomena Mastiko. Good morning.